Welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. It's April 9th, 2025. And looks like we've already got a comment. So let me say, okay, so we won, Mike. It only took us years and years. Okay.
I just got
What?
I just got a message from Mike, I think, but I haven't read it. I just come in.
Yeah.
And some celebrations going on there between Mike and Gary Wilkins. We'll see what
I don't have a message from Mike here. What did they win?
it was approved for you. Hi, Mike. It was approved for you, Gary, me, our staff, and the regional staff to visit the Gale Center property for the both of you to show us the issues on city property. It took a while, but I got it approved. Talk later. And some government official, I guess, this letter sent to government, and so I like some more. Looks like the tours that Mike and Gary want local politicians to have a look at, which seems to me kind of late in the game, but at least they're getting it done. And Mike and Gary have pushed for this tour because they know the area much better than most, and they can describe to the local politicians exactly what's there.
Yeah.
So my hat's off to you guys. Very, very good. Extraordinarily good. Thank you very much from a citizen of Niagara Falls, and hope the rest of Niagara Falls appreciates your efforts.
The only thing, of course, we all know, of course, there's only going to be one local politician who will even go on the tour.
Well, it said, anyway, it says that they're going to go on this thing, but I don't think it's just one. I hope it's more than that. It says
I hope it's
our
more than
staff and region staff, our staff and region staff. So that means Niagara Falls staff and region staff to visit the Gale Center property for the both of you to show us the issues on city property. It took a while, but it got approved. Okay. Excellent work, guys. Excellent work.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I just hope people pay attention to it. I had.
Yeah, and I wish they. And I hope they come with an open mind. And
Yeah.
I hope this is just not a gesture. A hollow gesture.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely.
But they got them to come and see, and which to me, that's something that should have happened long ago, and the local politicians should have been more open minded in the beginning. But hopefully, this gleans some kind of results or some kind of awareness that otherwise seems to be lost on the local politicians, but not lost on Mike and Gary.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mike Cushman, Gary Wilkins, congratulations.
No, and absolutely, I appreciate the work that you guys have done, over the years, and fighting for the environment isn't about going out and tree hugging. It's about this sort of stuff.
And the amount of work they put in.
Yeah,
look at the long communications we've had from Mike and the work that had to go in to do that, and the persistence of Gary and Mike continually. It's kind of humbling for me to witness that.
Yeah, it is great. It's absolutely great. Okay. Anything else?
No, just another nod of the cap to those two gentlemen, and I'm looking forward to see what the politicians will say about this.
Oh, so am I. Yeah. Let's get some muck shown. Let's go on a nice wet day.
Yeah. Right. Now, okay. I would also just the tariffs, the 50% extra tariffs making China goods 104% coming into the United States seems to will have another bad effect on the stock market. The stock market rallied yesterday for a while, and things looked like things were calming down. but in the end of the day, they started going down again, and it's the expectation that they will start to go down again today because of the 104% tariffs that are now levied as of midnight on China. So we'll see how that goes. It's a battle of wills back and forth between Xi Jinping and Trump. I hope some back deals are going on right now, because if that continues, it really will affect the American consumer in a big, big way.
Yeah.
I mean, everything in Walmart and the dollar store and all those things will just go way through the roof. And it's going to have a hard time. Like, people depend on inexpensive clothes from those places, clothes and shoes and every other kind of thing. And those are all going to be double in price. As soon as the next load of stuff comes into the country. So I have a hope that there's actually kind of some backroom deals going on right now, but we'll see. The stocks rallied because Japan and South Korea came to deal, see what we can do. They said, look, we'll fix whatever you think we need to get fixed, and let's go on from there. But the big one, China, is not playing that game. And so the rally that happened because of Japan and South Korea's sort of homage to the tariff regimen, and each country getting a tailor-made deal from the U.S., didn't hold out because of this 50% extra tariff on China. We'll see how that all plays out. But if it continues for much longer, the cost of living for the average American will go right through the roof because of all the things that we do get from China, and we cannot produce them nearly as cheap. So if we could produce them at all, we don't have the factories for it yet. So we'll see. We'll see if this is a gambit.
I wonder whether the Chinese will try to route them through other nations.
They have. That's part of the problem. They make stuff and send it to a place like Cambodia, and then put "Made in Cambodia" sticker on it and send it to the United States. So that's part of the tricks that they're they've been doing that. The whole world, not just the United States.
They've been doing that for years, though, in fact, they've been doing it the other way around. They make it in Cambodia because they can do it at 1/10 of the price they can do it in China, and then sell it as Chinese, particularly like jeans or something like that.
Well, they've been doing what is mostly happened with companies like Apple or things like that. They've moved a lot of their manufacturing out of China to avoid tariffs, but now those countries that they've moved it to are facing the same high tariffs. So an Apple phone may double in price if things continue.
Yeah, and they're already expensive. Yeah. Okay, so hang on, we got 2 comments up here. Morning, says Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, and of course, Gary saying, "Well done, good, well done indeed." Right on what we were talking about before.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Shreddies Shreddies maker is going to be partnering with Niagara Falls Soup Kitchen.
Yeah, I noticed that they give them $10,000 a year. That's good. They could do that. They also supply them with all kinds of shreddies, which is also.
Well, they're also going to be sending stuff. They're going to be sending a daily crew of volunteers to the soup kitchen on St. Lawrence Avenue for a week.
Yes, and this will come up a little later in another article. There, they give $10,000 a year, and they're sending a crew in for a week to volunteer there, which is really good. Plus all the shreddies they give. Our club gave Soup Kitchen $12,000 a year the year before last, but last year we could only give them $2,000 because of the strain of the need in all other places in the region. that we give to. So we found ourselves not being able to supply them. We gave them $12,000 the year before in 2023, or $12,000 2023, $10,000 in 2022, $10,000 in 2021, $5,000 the year before that. But we could only give them $2,000 last year. We also could not give Salvation Army at $10,000 that we had previous, and could only give them $5,000. So this is a good sign. There's a steady, solid amount of money and donations coming from Nabisco. So craft, whatever you call it.
The other thing I note is that this isn't the first time that Post have done this. I was doing a search around. They did some back in 22. They did some work with Habitat for Humanity, and they also were donated to the food bank in St. Catharines a few years ago as well.
Yeah, so they're a real good community player, which you expect that they should do. So Shreddies maker, Post Foods has, and the fact that they're putting a crew in there for a week is really nice as well.
Yeah, and I hope they pay those guys.
Of course they are.
Yeah, I know. Just making the point. Right. And that's got to please the soup kitchen, because
it's very symbolic too. It's a very symbolic thing. We are a company that's been here for 85 years, making Shreddies and other things. And guess what? We feel ourselves a solid part of this community, and we're going to give back. That's exceptional PR, but over and above that, it's just damn good.
Yeah, it is. And congratulations to Post Foods. Post Foods actually is surprising. I think when it comes down to it, how many people in the community have expected Post Foods to just leave the area, especially when Niagara Falls has had its problems, and it's almost like, but they always stay. They reform themselves, they restructure, and then continue to produce in the area. Dave? Okay, so here we go.
Back I am.
Yeah. What I was saying is, it surprises me how Post seem to come up big on a regular basis. There's been times when people have been saying, well, Post are going to be gone. There's been speculation about the closure of the plant, but yet we're still here.
I would continue to be so. I know Canadians who live in the States now, and when they come up here, the one thing they bring back with them is Shreddies, because they can't get it in the States. They grew up eating Shreddies. They love Shreddies, and they when they come up for a visit, they fill their suitcases up with Shreddies.
Those will be tariffed on the way down.
Nowadays, yeah, they might very well be.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, and the interesting thing is that congratulations to Post, and I'm glad to see that we've got Post who's such a reasonable, responsible local community member. I don't know what else to actually say about that, because I think every time I've heard about Post leaving the area, then they do turn around and do something like this, which is great.
Well, a tip of the hat to the volunteers coming from Post to work that week in the soup kitchen, and also a tip of the hat for management for allowing that. And I think it's just good. Feel good stories. Yeah, well, that is a feel good story for sure.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I put it there with all the other
absolutely
around. That's we kind of need that reality check that some things are still going on well in the world.
All right. So if you're going to the US for shopping, you're going to be getting a 25% surcharge on everything coming back. And this has been going on since March the 4th. And it applies, the CBSA is implementing that surcharge on a long list of goods imported from the US. And it will apply when you're coming back across the land border as well.
Yes. So be very aware. Be very aware, everyone, that it's not business as usual. You're not going to be able to go over there and get a bunch of groceries, and if it's under a certain amount, the guys at the border won't care much one way or another. They're searching everything. So if you bought a tube of toothpaste, they're going to be putting a 25% surcharge on it, a tariff charge. They mean business. This is a kind of a trade war. Hopefully it'll end soon, but in the meantime, you're not going to get too much respite when you go over there and you come back with something. I've heard reports already about people who've gone over there and bought the things they normally would have bought and brought over, and they're being hit with tariff charges on it, like pretty steep ones. So if you go over there, when I go over there, I don't buy anything anyway. I just go over there and I watch the cross game or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe have something to eat and then come back.
Well, you buy while you're out there, but you don't buy to bring back, is what you're saying.
That's right. But actually, the last time I went, the second last time I was over there when I watched the Sabres game, they are interested more in guns, so they ask you if you've got guns.
Yeah.
They said, "Do you bring anything back? No. You got any guns? Have you got any? No, we don't." So, but they always ask. They always ask about guns.
Well, that's been going on for quite some time anyway. Last time I remember going over there, they asked about guns.
Well, usually when I come by, I got a Nexus card, and they just kind of give me the nod, and I'm gonna say, "Well, how long you gone? Did you buy anything? No, okay, go." But now the questions are a little more deeper.
Yeah. Okay. And basically, CBSA is saying that they've begun implementing the 25-cent tariff on a long list of goods, and you could go look the list up there on the Canada on the Canada.ca website, and it's basically whilst the surcharge will continue as long as the Trump administration puts tariffs on Canadian imports, and these countermeasures will apply to all commercial shipments, goods imported by mail or courier, and goods imported by individuals traveling above their personal exemptions. So you still get the personal exemptions.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And I'm going to put this list up there. So I'm going to put this list in the comments so that everybody knows. All right. So you can see from the comments that what the links are. You can get your link from the comments. Okay. All right. Are you going? Okay. Anything else needs to be said about that?
No, just be careful and be aware. Don't in any way stop your trips to see your friends or support the local economy in Buffalo or Niagara Falls, New York, the border towns, because they're going to come here and support ours. We don't want anybody in a restaurant or anything like that, or a ticket taker even to lose their jobs because we've changed our habits up here. But remember, the border cities are different from the countries at large, and we have had mutual support for one another, and we need them for our jobs, and they need us for their jobs. So try to look at it that way. There's nothing here that we don't like Americans, and I would say do not change your habits in that regard. If you're going to, those people who are canceling trips that will take a month or so or a couple of weeks in the States, you might want to stop them for political reasons or whatever else. But our border cities, our border towns that we have interdependence and relatives and friends on both sides, I would say that we just continue as we normally would.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Absolutely, 100%. All right. Niagara Health is prioritizing trauma surgeries and is adding 2 new orthopedic surgeons.
Yeah, this is very interesting. We found out that during the wintertime, we had a rash of broken bones.
Yeah, that was curious. That was curious, and okay, a lot of it may well be because we had a lot of ice out there, but I
Yeah,
don't
we
think
had a lot.
that's not the be all and end all, of course.
Yeah, and broken bones go up every winter anyway because
Yeah,
people slip and fall.
yeah,
But it went up extraordinarily this past winter. And what we found out that trend seems to be continuing, that there are more broken bones and more emergency operations on broken bones and such. So we need orthopedic surgeons. We need more of them. And there's a lot of this happening, but a lot of that deals with the aging demographic. As we grow older, our bones get more brittle and thinner, and if we fall or tumble, they break. I mean, I broke my
yeah.
hip, you
Oh yeah,
know, and so now sometimes it's just your own damn fault. Like when I was in Thailand and I was on my motor scooter there and doing things I shouldn't be doing. I flew off my motorbike and broke my arm, but I didn't have to have any orthopedic surgeons over here look at it until I got back. They took care of it in Thailand for me,
yeah.
dirt cheap. But uh,
You spent the rest of your holiday on the beach, basically.
well, no, I did it traveling around. I was gonna, prior to breaking my arm in Chiang Rai, I uh, I was going to go back, go to Laos, and then go back in and start doing some more diving. But I, of course, obviously couldn't do any more diving with a cast on my arm.
No,
So that
not
was
feasible. Okay, Mike points out an important thing: baby boomers are aging. How can they be? They can't be called baby boomers anymore. They're aging boomers.
well. I don't know if that booming has to do with the incontinence that baby boomers have. I don't know.
Well, of course, they were called baby boomers because after the Second World War, there was a boom in the numbers of babies that people came back from war and babies all of a sudden flourished.
Yeah, you had all kinds of, yeah, for sure, because you had all kinds of horny soldiers coming back. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, but it wasn't just the 40s; it continued into the 50s, of course.
Yeah, there was this thing. Now we have the opposite problem now, where women don't want to have babies at all. Our our birth rate's very low. As a matter of fact, I will bring this up. Part of the Project 2025 mandate is to try to encourage women to continue to have babies, and encourage, like, that's part of the Project 2025 thing. If it ever gets enacted, one of the aspects of it is to stimulate population growth by having women feel comfortable about having children again. They don't now because it's all kind of money and career and stigmatization. So what they want to do in Project 2025 is to reverse that. I don't know how they think they can do that, but that's part of it. And
Well, and
again,
again,
they'll never admit that Project 2025 is what they're doing. So we'll see.
well, and again, yeah, but again, how do you do that and cause a turnaround? Basically, it's about changes in attitude, and those changes in attitude, it's about reversing those changes in attitude we've had over the last 50 years.
Yeah, very much. Like we could stem part of this to the feminist movement. When the feminist movement was beginning, there was an argument among feminists: do we enhance feminine qualities and make them as equal as men, or do we go into the male fields and become more um, uh, sort of show ourselves to be more capable in the male fields rather than the female fields. So there was this argument: do we just enhance the feminine part of society, or do we take our women and
Well,
it into the male oriented parts of society? The second one won out.
I can remember that there was feminist movement in Britain. My mum was talking about how women were burning their bras, except she didn't wear a bra. So she'd go out there with some other piece of material that she was burning.
Yeah. So unfortunately, when the feminist movement came out, they wanted to be concentrate on anything more male like accomplishments. I would think. I don't know really how to describe it.
Yeah.
There was an aspect of the feminist movement said, no, we should enhance our femininity and make that an equal contributor. And that meant being more feminine, which included being mothers and things like that, and enhancing that aspect of elevating that aspect of society to make it equal to men.
Let's be honest, Dave. Just because a woman decides to have a career doesn't mean to say that that means that she's decided not to have babies. You can have both, right? Have you died again? Looks like you have. So, Dave? Okay, well, look at those, Mike. Okay, so here we come again with
yeah, I'm again.
Added. Hey, Dave. Okay, so what was I saying there? Okay, so the question about this is that okay, so Mike's left us messages for this about that stuff. So go look on your messenger, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so we were talking about feminism and burning the bras, etc. And you know, in the workplace, and I was saying there's no reason why women can't be in the workplace as well as you know, as well as being mothers.
Well, there's a big reason. One thing, their careers are at risk as soon as they start having children. Unless you work for the government where you're very protected, your job is protected and all that. It's an imposition to the career. Now, women's baby making years basically are from 18 to 40 or thereabouts, maybe a little after, but they
I would say
that is the time in which women are establishing their careers. Also, the cost of living's gone up, so a couple needs two incomes now, and children are expensive, and it takes and it interrupts the career of women. So it's not exactly.
Children are expensive, that's for sure. You know, having brought up a child, yes, their demands are massive, as every parent knows. And do you criticize them for it? No, of course you don't. You don't. You know, like the last thing you ever want is kind of that money back, eh?
Yeah. So, like, I had 3 sons, and so and we had 2 incomes, and there were some tough times in there, but we made it through. And I'm happier that I would have had 6. Basically, it was up to me. I would have foregone the big TV and stayed with the small one to have another kid, kind of thing. But 3, but that was me. But most people don't see it that way. And the idea that we're more of a materialistic society. So we don't really look at our family as the accomplishment, but 2 cars in the garage and the 72-inch smart TV is what we see as
Damn, mine's only 55. I'm losing out, obviously. I'm going to have to look for an 80-inch, aren't I?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
When a lady told me she had a 72-incher, I said, "Oh my God, I only got a 48-inch."
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, all right. Moving on. Where are we? So, yeah, we're talking about adding orthopedic surgeons to its staff in order to improve access to care in operating rooms.
What's that then? Oh, Niagara Health prioritizing travel. Yeah, we're back to that. Yeah. So, so there is this push that we're going to have to. We need more orthopedic surgeons. We may get a little bit of a boost in Ontario because a lot of unhappy doctors in the United States right now are being invited up here to practice up here instead. Now, it's not just the tariff thing. It's not just the politics and all that. A lot of American surgeons and doctors are facing crippling insurance costs down there. I've known this because I've known Americans that one American particularly lives in Florida, and she said the doctors. She used to be a nurse, so doctors are pulling the pin because the insurance rates on them are just extraordinary. So they were leaving Florida for that reason. And all around the states, it's pretty hard for a doctor to have a practice with the insurance rates hanging over them. And so that may be very much of an appeal for doctors to come up here. As an aside, we may get a lot of scientists and researchers from the States coming up because their DOGE has canceled a lot of the scientific research that was being done in the United States. So there are a lot of brains out there that we can scoop up and use them in our own research labs up here. So there's a bit of a silver lining in all of what Trump's doing. So, but the doctor thing has to do more than just the geopolitical thing that's going on. They find it difficult to establish themselves with this type of insurance rates, and that's the story I get from people in Florida. So I don't know if that's as much of a contributing factor that I'm guessing that it is, but there will be more. Apparently, there is a potential of scooping a lot of doctors from the States. We'll see.
Okay. And while you were talking about Florida, 300,000 Canadians visit Palm Springs each year, and Trump's levies are threatening tourism in the region.
Well, this is Palm Springs, California.
Yeah.
And they've put up signs in Palm Springs.
Yeah. Palm Springs loves Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. They get 300,000 Canadian visitors every year. And that's 30% of their economy. That represents 30% of the economy right there. And of course, they're seeing a drop off in Canadians coming, and they're afraid that that's going to continue. So what they're going to do is they're going to make sure that all the Canadians know that they're very welcome there, and that to ignore the Trump thing and just to think of the community as what they've thought of it beforehand. So the Canadians go down there not just because of the weather, they also get active in the community. So of course, they're on holiday. So a lot of the retired people go down there, and they go down there for months at a time, and they get involved in the community. They do community support work. So that will be missed too. And plus the fact that so many waitresses, bellhops, whatever, still, rely on the money coming from Canada to help maintain that. So that's a nice thing, I think, very much so, that Americans are trying to.
And there's in many cities there's actually this people who return on a regular basis. Right?
Yeah.
My neighbors used to be going to Florida almost on an annual basis. And they had not property, but they used to have a trailer in a trailer park down there.
I might be going in a couple of weeks because I have a friend down there, and I got an invitation to go down, and it might be about 2 weeks from now. So I intend to go down there. I won't be spending a whole lot of money. Obviously, I won't need to buy to get a room. I'll be staying for free.
Yeah, but you'll be spending your money. You'll be spending your money in the shops and things like that. Like a coffee here and and a donut there type thing.
Oh, sure, but it wouldn't add up to much.
No, I know, but it's still kind of you're there. You're supporting the local economy in a small way.
Yeah,
and another 3 or 4 of you supporting the economy. Doing the same thing supports the economy. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would like, for instance, the airline that I fly down there. We support it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. Mind you, the one thing about airlines that we didn't talk. There was a story a few weeks ago that we were due to talk about, but we never did cover, which was that airlines have seen a 25 to even 40% drop in the numbers of people traveling to the US.
Well, yeah, I think even WestJet has had to cancel.
Primarily Canadian, and they're canceling flights now.
Yeah, I hope this thing gets over with quick. I don't like this situation that's happening right now. I hope it just ends pretty quick. Whatever, like, we got a month or so before we have to deal with the deal we're supposed to be getting from the U.S. tailor-made for us. Adjustments to the USMCA. The problem here is that only 39% of our products are USMCA or NAFTA protected, and other than so the tariffs on steel and aluminum are unjustifiable. They're there punishment for fentanyl and all that stuff, which makes no sense. Rand Paul has come out recently and said that we're punishing Canadians for fentanyl coming over, and yet more fentanyl comes from the United States and goes into Canada.
Yeah,
and he's made that point quite clearly. It doesn't make
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Another news flash I've just seen that flashed up on this article. Oil prices dropped below $60 for the first time since 2021, as tariffs continue to rattle the markets.
Yeah, we're going to expect decreasing oil prices because they feel the need. The demand for oil will actually go down as the economies start to tank a bit with this tariff stuff. That's what I mean. Like, I hope Trump has a get out strategy as part of the plan, because if things keep going like this, the American economy will suffer very badly. And he himself, the U.S. relies on oil sales. As we've said before, they sell most of their sweet crude offshore, and because the refineries are made up to take on heavy crude, so they don't have enough refineries to take on sweet crude, so they sell the sweet crude and buy heavy crude from us. It's kind of odd, but they make more money doing that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and of course, visitors to places like Palm Springs, visitors to places like Florida. There's many Canadians that will continue to do that anyway. But I know that many Canadians have considered changing their habits, which is one thing you've been saying don't. And I generally agree, but I also think you've got to kind of consider your own safety.
Well, yeah, your own safety, but you're also like if you're going for an extended trip, let's say that you don't go to Florida every year and you don't have friends established and that, and I would definitely say don't go to the United States for an extended trip, a thing that you didn't plan for every year or something like that, because for one thing, your dollar's going nowhere, and for another thing, it you much rather spend that money in Canada if you can. But your regular habits, if you have friends down in Florida or a lot of people go down to Florida for months at a time, and uh, they're finding that it's very difficult to stay down there,
Yeah.
and difficult to pay things, but also
Well,
they feel a sense of nationalism.
I have a friend in Cleveland, and apparently it's snowing in Cleveland right now. Hi, Nancy.
Okay, let's put a tariff on that snow so it doesn't come over here.
Yeah, I want a surcharge on the snow, so we don't get it. Yeah. Yeah, actually, that said, it has been bitterly cold the last couple of days.
Yes, it is. It's typical April. April showers bring May flowers. No, April brings frustration. Nice and sunny one day, freezing cold the next, sleet, rain, cold rain, and then the sun comes out and it's nice and warm again. You put your shorts back on. 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, you're back in the house, putting your long pants back on and putting your boots back on. So, yeah, April is the month of frustration.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, thank you, Nancy. You know, interesting about that. Yeah, and that's kind of where we are. So, all right, moving on. Niagara nutrition programs are relying on help to feed students.
Yeah, this is something I've mentioned this before. Our own club, our own Kiwanis club, when we were giving away
Oh,
the school supplies that we had got from one of our donation drives in tandem with Staples. When we asked the schools one year what they needed, and they said, "Well, we need food, we need snacks. We could use $500 to buy snacks." And that was one school. So what we did was I called the other schools, and they said, "Yeah, they're strapped for snacks." So we gave each one of those schools $500 that year to buy snacks. And a little later on, Rotary come along about a year later and said that they were going to continually supply the schools with some money for.
so we're talking here about school students and not university students.
No, we're talking about kids, small
Yeah,
kids,
small
right?
kids. Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
the regular
I'm
public
just making
schools.
it clear.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some children aren't even getting to school because they're not being fed. A lot of the kids are reliant on the food they get at school. As a matter of fact, the schools, if they suspect the kids don't have a whole lot at home, they'll give them snacks to take home for them. So you can't teach a kid if he's hungry. He or she
Yeah.
is hungry.
Oh, yeah.
A kid comes to the school, little boy or little girl comes to school and they're hungry. They can't learn. So you got to make sure that they're fed. Unfortunately, that's the situation we are here, and we find that this all manner of donations have gone down overall because there is less to give, and so there is this need at schools to feed
I
children.
want to. Yeah, I want to ask you a question about donations going down. Have you seen the recent advert by what do you call it? Oh, Samaritans.
No, I haven't seen it.
There's a recent advert the Samaritans are putting out that is saying, "Please donate 25% less."
And why is that?
Well, they're saying because times are hard, we're asking you to continue to donate, but donate 25% less than you normally do. And I thought to myself at first it was a gimmick, and then secondly that it was actually an appeal really to more people potentially. we're not going to ask you for $100 a month. We're going to only ask you for 75 a month. And maybe there might well be some people that had been considering it, but were not able to pay.
Well, there are some people that are open-handedly generous, and they get they answer just about every appeal, and then they put themselves on the back foot.
Yeah.
So I would say that, and because of that, those people are always the ones that get phone calls because their names are shared. So they're getting phone calls every day. We need money in sick kids. We need money in this. We need money in that. So they're the ones that are always getting petitioned basically continually. Give me more. We need more. We need more. So I would say that, yeah, I don't know what their strategy is by asking us to give less. I think if you just maintain what you give and don't allow for inflation, that's probably the way to go. If you've already give a certain amount every year, a certain constant amount every year, just don't increase it. For now, I wouldn't say give less, but if you feel a pinch, yeah, give what you think you can afford. That's basically it. But do give.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was just like I was thinking that was an intriguing thing by Samaritans. But yeah, this whole cost of, we're talking about feeding students here, school students, and each meal for a school student is approximately $2.50.
Yeah, so it's relatively inexpensive, but the fact that the need is there, and what bothers me huge, why is the need so high? Well, a lot of it's the new Canadians and refugees that are filling up our schools right now, and they don't, and a lot of them don't have the means to. I don't know why they're not being fed, because particularly the refugee kids are getting a lot of money from the government. They're being fed there. That's part of the deal. They go into the hotel rooms and are fed and have allowances and so on. So I don't know where that is coming from, but it says here, Jennifer Pellegrini at Catholic Schools, they says, we are incredibly grateful for the support our schools receive from agencies and organizations working hard to support our students' healthy lunches and snacks. So adding Start Me Up Niagara, which is an outstanding reputation for supporting Niagara residents in need, to the list of those organizations that do so much for the students, can only benefit our communities. Well, I will say, look, I got some very nice feedback from when we donated school supplies this past year. We had a record-breaking donations from our Staples drive, school supply drive, and we were able to put $10,000 of school supplies out there to 5 different schools, each one getting $2,000. And so I got a really nice feedback. In fact, a big envelope of cards from the little children have made up, thank you cards from Greendale. Just last week, I went and got them. So I got an envelope of these cards that the little kids had made up, thank you cards.
Yeah.
Well, it's depressing to me that here we are in Ontario, and there's children coming to school to get food as well as an education.
Okay, so what happens to those cards, Dave? They put on public display? Do you put them on the website or something?
I don't know what to do with them. I think they're over here. Let me just see. I don't know what to do with them, basically, other than to show them to our membership. And we've had them before other years.
Oh, I know. I get it. I get it.
Things like this,
Yeah.
I've got a guy. One of our members has the time and expertise. I think he should put them online for us. I'll suggest that to him.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's, the big thank you from kids is massive.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
And when I go into the schools, I see the little guys. When I went into Greendale last week, there was a kid. There was a kid with a mask and claws on. He had a big black mask and little eyes and claws on. So I thought he was Wolverine, and he wouldn't say anything. But the little guy beside him was doing the commentary. I said, "Oh my God, are you guys an alien?" And he would just shake his head, and the kid beside, "No, not an alien. Is he Wolverine?" And the little kid would shake his hand, and then the other little kid says, "No, he's not Wolverine." I says, "Well, what is he?" Well, he's Black Panther. And I said, "Oh, of course he is." You know?
Okay. All right. So, hey, gotta love the heroes, right?
Yeah.
It gives us something. It gives the kids something to kind of, I guess it's a good focus point. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, the question here that we do have is why, we need to actually address this whole question of poverty.
Well, we're going to be in for it. I try not to bring up the trade thing, but if things keep going the way they are going, things are going to get tougher for poor people all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
The tariffs are going to make life much more difficult for poor people all over the world, including right here in Ontario. So, if that's the case, we're going to have to step up, and unfortunately, that's just what we're going to have to do. And we're going to have to make sure that we supply families with proper amount of food. And if they have to get it through schools, that's what we'll have to do. We're just going to have to step up. That's it. Find solutions the best we can, but in the meantime, we're going to have to do that. And I'm very glad that certain agencies in and around Niagara Falls are stepping up to facilitate more food. But the Ontario government gives allowances for food too, but it's very small amounts, not enough. And particularly when we've had more influx of kids, particularly in Niagara, that are of humble means, to say the least. I don't know. It's just time for the community to step up and hope that the trend doesn't continue.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. A Brock University professor calls for a royal commission about Canada's future. Interesting. I thought to myself, oh, well, actually, probably every country ought to be considering its future at certain points in its lifetime.
Well, this Brock professor has pointed out that back in the 80s, like when she said a royal commission, I kind of rolled my eyes at first. Oh no, royal commission. That's a ponderous, sort of bureaucratic Byzantine thing, and they come up with recommendations and they don't employ them half the time. But in this case, she has a very good point. We really haven't considered our place in the world since the 80s. When we made strong arguments for free trade back in the 80s and was eventually implemented with the United States in the NAFTA agreement, and later on Mexico was included. That was our political and sort of societal ambitions, basically, to follow that. But now that we find that the rules based, now we made all kinds of assumptions. We made assumptions that the Americans would always oblige by the rules that they themselves created, so did other countries. But she says that we're way behind in our aspect of looking at the world. We've made all those assumptions and never considered anything else. And now we're in real trouble because our number one ally and friend has changed all the rules that they themselves created. And she's not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we are ill prepared for that. We have to.
Well, that's exactly the point that made me think that, hey, this is something we should do on a more almost every country should do on a regular basis. We should review where we are, where we want to be going as a nation, and how we're going to get there.
She says that Canada has not kept up with a world that has drastically changed over the last 20
Yeah.
years, and the discussion on how the country should position itself is long overdue. And it noted that following the 9/11 terrorist attacks that led to the U.S. enhancing security and tightening border, it became clear how exposed Canada was by being so dependent on the U.S.
Yeah.
And everybody can agree with her, and lots of people have been bellwethers in this. We are way too reliant on the states, and we assume they're going to do stuff like protect us and all that other stuff. And we haven't built up our military, and we rely on the rules-based orders never to change. And now we're stuck because our vision of the world is outdated by at least 20 years.
Yeah.
She's saying that you need a royal commission to kind of decide where's Canada's position and where do we go next.
That's exactly where I was in this, because at first I read the article, rolled my eyes and said, no. Why would we need such a thing? But I got thinking more deeply about it. And then I thought to myself, well, actually, it's true. We're behind the times on many of the things that were pointed out. And then I thought to myself, yeah, we probably do need to have this. And it occurs to me that probably every nation needs to do it on a regular basis, once every 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or something. Review where the nation is going on, review nationally where the nation is going. Identify differences, identify problems, and how are we going to solve the problems that we now have in front of us? 2025 has its special set of problems, and it's not just tariffs. It's a load of other things like disability, like poverty. Poverty is a big issue. And how do we get to solve that? And how do we put that into the bigger picture? That's something that we need to ask on a regular basis.
Yeah. Also, Canadian defense, the whole fact.
Yeah.
And the whole fact that we have reported here that back in the 80s, when the NAFTA thing was being first negotiated, one of the biggest issues with it was the dependency that we would then have be on the United States, and that if they wanted to pull a pin at any time, they could, like what's happened now, and we'd be in a tough spot. Naysayers of that said, no, they've been our friends forever and they won't do that. And so we don't have to worry about that, which meant we became very lazy. So we noticed that between our interprovincial trades. So we didn't bother fixing the interprovincial trade because it was so much more easy to trade with the U.S. Well,
and the irony here is that you could sell Manitoba products to the US and then buy from the US when you had a free trade agreement, and buy those back into Ontario, and you'd get through the provincial trade barriers.
Well, the provincial trade barriers were up to protect, like, pretty much like the economic protection zones. And they were outdated, but nobody ever bothered to do much about them. And now that's all going to change.
That is something.
Did we have to really go get all, like what she points out here? Now we have to do all these things all of a sudden. If we had a plan and we had position and we were able to plan for this eventuality, then it wouldn't have hurt us so bad.
Yeah. So it would have been like having a Canada 2020. Sorry, it would have been like defining in 2010, let's say, a Canada 2025 plan.
Well, I think there are already all kinds of plans, but what we found out in Canada that our production level is dismal compared to the U.S. Our economy
reinvestment is at an all-time low.
Yeah, and the government hasn't been able to address that. Now, both the potential governments, either the Conservatives, if they win, or the Liberals, plan to address that, our production level being so pathetic. And why is that? And it's because we're doing stuff wrong. And because it was just easier to ignore it, it became a big problem for us.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so, yeah, we haven't been prepared. What the Americans do, we do, that kind of thing. So if they do it, we do it. Instead of just looking at, is it really good for Canada, or could we modify it to be better for Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any further thoughts, or are we done?
No, only that I'll bring up Gaza again. They killed a journalist. They claimed that he was unarmed and everything else, but they go, well, he must be a Hamas guy. Put a bullet in him. No, they killed him on purpose, because what they don't want is the story of Gaza to get out. So if they can get an excuse to kill a journalist, they will. So that is just going crazy. It is the most evil thing going, and I don't know. I just want to keep bringing it up and remind people that the kind of outrages that are happening there are reflective of us, because we in the West kind of like just turn our back on that. And
Yeah, it's in some distant land, so what do I need to worry about it for, eh? That kind of attitude, isn't it?
certainly,
Yeah.
and I don't know. When you oppress people, they're going to react violently, and then you react violently back again, and it's back and forth and back and forth and back
Oh,
and
yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
And I posted something on my Facebook that came from 1967, where a bunch of Jewish or Israeli Jews and one Palestinian Jew made note of that. If you do occupation, you repress people, because you have to repress them. And when you repress people, they react. They react with violence. Then you react back with violence. And then you murder them, and they murder you, and back and forth, and the cycle ends.
The whole Middle East crisis has been like that, if you look over the last 50 years.
Anyway.
And that's been a factor in the Middle East crisis for the last 50 years, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that back up again. Because I don't want to forget that. And I suppose we could also think of Ukraine. Their people are suffering a great deal as well, and the U.S. seems to be turning their back on them, or at least wanting to make some big gains in money, and won't even back them up with support. So it's very, very strange what's going on right now. And Karen Fraser has made an announcement. Due to a turn in my health, I have had to step aside from being the candidate for the Green Party. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Karen. Sorry to hear that you have bad health, and sorry that you had to step down. I hand the torch to Celia Taylor, who ran for the Green Party in the last provincial election. She's a fantastic person. At this point, I feel I'm better suited to be a campaign manager. If you plan to vote for Green, please don't hesitate to vote for Celia. She also wants to be your voice in Ottawa. Very sad to hear that. Sorry, Karen. I hope you become a candidate again in a really an election further down the.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And I think we can kind of end it with that one. Thank you, Karen.
Yes. Without further ado, I bid you adieu, pray for peace, and remember Gaza.